All right, everybody, what's going on? What's happening with y'all today? So happy to see each and every one of you all. Wow. There we go. Good morning. What's up, sis? I'm out here doing my thing, my thizzle thugging. What's happening? Good morning, live from the temple. It's Temple Talk. Good to see you on this, sis. I happen to be talking about toxic people today. So make sure you go ahead and share this with your friends, your circle of influence, your sphere of impact. And yeah, we're going to keep this train rolling. We've been on the road. I missed Temple Talk last week. Just been running like crazy. So if you're checking us out live now, make sure you check us out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 noon Eastern. I'm looking over here. Yep. 12 noon Eastern. And we'll be coming on each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So check it out. I'm going to get right into it. First of all, thank y'all so much. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you share this channel with your friends. Now, I want y'all to know. See that name right there? That don't say no Pastor Tim. Ain't no Pastor Tim up in here. Nope. That's not happening today. Not today. Not no Monday. Not no Wednesday. And not no Friday during Temple Talk. I just want y'all to know that. I want you to know, realize, and understand that. And so as we are looking forward to having a cool time, just want to sit back and talk about a few things. Podcast, man, Malcolm Jamal Warner, that's really tough. What happened to him. We've been in prayer for him. I tell people, listen, don't just pray for the celebrity, but pray for the human being. There are real people who have been impacted, real people who have been, their lives have been changed because of that tragedy. So, we pause for a minute in a moment to give condolences to the Warner family and everybody connected to him. So check this out. Well, there's several different things. First of all, I'm going to be talking about toxic people and really how to read the room. Last week, or the last podcast we were on, I talked about when leaving you is actually love. It's funny because I actually taught Bible study last night, and somehow that Bible study correlated with that whole separation thing. But there are a few things I just think for the health of people's mental, you gotta read the room, man. And I got this whole series that I'm doing, this toxic waste series, and this whole series, there are three things that I want this series of podcast subjects to help you with. I want you, and especially when it comes to toxicity. Um, hey, Mom, I want you to be able to recognize it. I want you to be able to release it. And I want you to be able to rise from it. Yeah. I want to talk about toxic people. You know, I went and threw some bread away the other day. And I don't know why I go shopping before I travel because I lose days and time with the product that has, it's not an expiration date, but it's a guaranteed freshness date. And so I think it was the 21st, July 21st. I went and I looked in the pantry and I saw stuff that said June 22nd, July 6th. And I thought about holding on to it. Now, if I'd frozen it, obviously, I could have extended the freshness time. But I'm telling you right now, when I got the bread and noticed the dates, I started to keep it and then I thought about it. Number one, why am I going to keep this bread if I'm not going to be willing, watch this, to diminish my taste buds to a less than fresh piece of bread, but also potentially expose myself to contaminants that would not be healthy because of potential mold that would set in after the guaranteed freshness. So let me tell you what I did with the bread. I threw it away. Yeah. Three things when it comes to toxic people, toxic environments, toxic associations, toxic relationships, toxic friends, toxic family, toxic foes. I want you to be able to recognize it. I want you to be able to release it. And I want you to be able to rise from it. Now, let me go ahead and do this just in case y'all forgot. I'm going to pause for the cause so that you all can see that this is not Bible study. Just letting you know. So if you stay on here, you stay at your own risk. All right. So, what does toxicity even look like? I just want to sit back and have a conversation with you. By the way, am I looking pretty fly? That's the whole point of coming on in the temple. You gotta look fly. Wait a minute, hold on. Okay. And let me tell you something. The most dangerous person that you need to avoid, especially when you recognize they're toxic, is yourself. Especially when toxic thinking sets in. But anyway, um, toxic people. How do we recognize? How do we um, you know tell what it looks like? Now, in case y'all didn't know, podcast. In case you're not familiar with the podcast setup, I'm having a conversation. Okay, you're on here and you're listening in on the conversation. If you want to say something, you can say something. If I see it, I'll say something too. But I always like to give illustrations. So that was a woman, right? Um, she didn't realize. her water had been contaminated. Like Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi. She had been drinking the water and didn't realize because the water, it tasted the same, it had a different smell, but it was clear, didn't look to have anything wrong with it. But she had this contaminated water and she didn't realize that the water was contaminated until symptoms started showing up in her body. Hmm. She she had already ingested and drank the contaminated water, not identifying or paying attention to the fact that something smelled sour. Here's the thing. Um, if you're going to recognize, release, and rise from toxicity, man, you got to know how to identify it. Well, how do you identify it? Now, I'm not smart as everybody else on this podcast today. So I always have to break things down in a point structure or some type of systematic structure. Number one, you got to know how to identify a contaminated climate. When you listen, I am notorious for this, and there are people who some may think I'm crazy, some may think I'm an asshole, some may think I'm a jerk, or some may think I'm just weird. But man, when I get in an environment that I'm not rocking with, I'm out. No questions. We don't need no conversation. I'm out because negative environments can affect your mental and your spiritual well-being. You, listen, I made a decision not too long ago. See, when you recognize a contaminated climate, you need to stop thinking that you're the Lysol. Hell wrong with you? You you're not you're not the divine disinfectant. I know I'm not, which is why when I'm in a toxic environment and when I know that I'm in a contaminated climate, I move. And guess what? Don't really care what you think about it. Because there are some people who have, watch this, who have become so accustomed to contaminated climates to where they can bask in a contaminated climate and not even be affected or impacted because they have created, oh Lord, they have created such an immune system because it's all they do. They're either lying, talking, gossiping, whatever it is. They're so accustomed to this contaminated climate. It's like being from up north and you come down south, or being down south and you go up north. I happen to know that moving to the Northeast in the tri-state area, Connecticut, when I moved there after being there for so long, my blood actually thickened up to where I was not as cold as I once was when I first got there with the thinner blood coming from a warmer climate. But I'm telling you, there are some people who have adapted to contaminated climates, and they have become immune to the toxicity of the oxygen, the toxicity of the air, the toxicity of the conversations, the toxicity of. There's some people who've gotten accustomed to contaminated climates and they love living in dysfunction. Y'all ain't saying that to me right now. Look at this. You got to know how negative environments really impact you. You got to know that is problematic. When there are some people who just they live for the contaminated climate. There's some people who live to make sure that your day gets as jacked up and as uh, messed up as possible. And once they've accomplished that, they go on about their business. And here you are, discombobulated, totally jacked up, they shot to hell. You over here mad as hell or sad as hell, but you're not glad as hell because there are some people who have adapted to contaminated climates and they bask in dysfunction. For me, it's a hell no. Goodbye. The other thing is this: you got to be mindful of not just because I told you I'm not as smart as y'all on the podcast, so I have to like break my stuff down into like these strategic thoughts, especially when we're talking about toxicity and contamination. You have to understand that we are not designed to function well in a contaminated climate. We are not designed to hang around corrosive connections. Y'all ever see? You ever see the batteries? Um, when acid builds up, right? Yeah. If you've never seen, I mean, you may have. Some of you all may have never even seen a car battery, except for on TV. But for those of us who have either had to change batteries out or we've actually seen batteries, there are times that there can be corrosive buildup. And that corrosive buildup, watch what it does. It begins to hamper the performance of the battery. The charge is not as strong. The power is impeded. Although it's coming through, it's not coming through as strongly as it could because there's some corrosion there. And can I tell you that not only do you need to stay away from people and stay out of contaminated climates, but you need to guard yourself against corrosive connections. You know what a corrosive connection is? Just like I told you about the battery. Corrosive connections are those connections that just drain the hell out of you, drain your peace, distort your purpose. You get all dazed and confused. You were having a great day until there's some people you don't need to answer the phone for. Watch this. And I used to go around blocking people. I don't even block people no more. Like, I'm just not gonna answer your phone. I'm just not gonna answer your call. Yeah. Because as I get older and as I hone in on 60, Lord have mercy. Can I tell you I'm caring lesser and lesser, especially on the societal and social side of things? Man, my focus now is my spiritual stuff. So now here's what I do know is that I'm going to use this platform. This ain't the Bible class. This is where I come getting your ass about the truth. Yeah, see? And guess what? And if you have a problem with that, oh, I hope somebody gets on here and tries to quote the scripture about we're not supposed to have any filthy communications. Well, number one, ass is in the Bible. Damn is a biblical reference, right? Dung is in the Bible. So if you hear me say shit, that's what that is, right? Corrosive connections. These are the types of connections. Oh, let me go back and say this. For those of you that want to say that the Bible says that we're not to have any filthy communications, do you know that that is not talking about words of colorful commentary? Filthy communications is when you're bearing false witness, when you lying, when you open up your mouth and whatever it is that you have to say is not edifying, but as a matter of fact, it's destructive. Filter communications have more to do with the alignment of truth and the lack thereof than what you and maybe other people may consider to be filthy. Because what's filthy is your lie. What's filthy is your false witness. What's filthy is you're talking about what you're not don't know what you're talking about. What's filthy is when you saying what somebody else said to somebody else said that wasn't even said by whatever who it was that they said what they said, and then by the time you said it, it wasn't even what was said. That's what's filthy. So now, corrosive connections. Yeah, corrosive connections. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. You stay away from contaminated climates. These corrosive connections, just like the battery. I told you how the acid gets on the battery. It impedes the performance. It hampers the charge. It slows down and it overloads the power unnecessary. It just drains it. How much time I got? I'm only staying on here 30 minutes, so I have 9 minutes. Corrosive connections are those people. And I know my mom's on it. She knows I'm crazy. I mean, first of all, there ain't no question I love Jesus. But on this side, this is kind of like my entertainment side, but it's also a very truthful side. But I just thought about corrosive connections are those types of individual. Listen, if if your phone rings and it's a name or number that comes up, and you may not say this, but I'm gonna say it for comical purposes. But if your phone rings and a name and a number comes up, and somewhere down off in the deepest recesses of yourself, you say, "Oh, damn, that's a corrosive connection." Yeah, you know, I'm saying, I'm just talking about toxic people 101. Toxic people love hanging out in contaminated environments or climates, right? Toxic people represent corrosive connections. Drain the hell out of you. I mean, damn. No. Then the last thing I'm gonna say, because then I'm gonna, because I got next week, well, Friday. Friday I'm gonna come back and because I want to use my homeboy Samson. Um, I want to use him as an example on how sometimes you just hook yourself up with hell. Yeah. Well, I want to tell y'all this. Um, whether you're watching the live or you're watching the replay, my purpose for this series of podcast topics is to try to get us to really start thinking about our decision making processes that if we would just make some better decisions. Can I tell you, I believe this with all my heart. If we would just pause and make better decisions, we could spend our prayer time on other stuff that matters more. Now, we have contaminated climates. We have corrosive connections. Because I'm not as smart as everybody who's on here watching, whether I know you're on here watching or not, because numbers say different than names. But it's important also that you recognize concealed contamination. Oh, this is the one right here. Okay. Contaminated climates. There are people who, if you haven't watched The Man of Steel or Superman, when they come and pick Superman up in Man of Steel, that's the old one, not the new one. But they sent him to Earth as a little boy. So his body went through, the process of acclimating. Then they came to pick him up because they wanted to bring him back for whatever reason. And when they picked him up, he had a Superman, which the S, that doesn't mean Superman. Um, but anyway, when they picked him up and they took him up in the spaceship, he started having all types of reactions. And they said, your body has acclimated to Earth's atmosphere. You have to reacclimate. Man, don't acclimate to a contaminated climate. Don't do that. Well, I mean, you can, but don't expect me to come do it because hell, I ain't coming. I ain't coming over there. You can have it for real. And then don't stay connected to corrosion. Man, what? Why are you? If you do that, my question is, why are you such a masochist? You're such a masochist. Sado masochism. One likes to inflict pain, and one just wants to be in pain. Damn. Why? Okay. Contaminated climates don't adapt. Corrosive connections don't stay connected. But this one right here, this is the one I want you to really be on the lookout for. And I'm gone. Ooh, concealed contamination. I'm leaving. I bet you I'm leaving. I bet you I'm getting ready to leave. Concealed contamination. I'm getting myself ready to go. Right now, I'm getting myself ready to go. Concealed contamination. Let me tell you, concealed contamination. This is what it does. It prevents you from recognizing subtle signs that you're living in dysfunction. So, concealed contamination. If you hang around and adjust and acclimate to a contaminated climate, if you stay linked up with corrosive connections, you will wind up having concealed contamination. I told you the woman had the water. The contamination was concealed. Even though it smelled a little funny, she still drank it. It was still clear. It was still wet. It was still liquid. It still came out of the faucet. So it must be all right. So she adjusted to the contaminated climate. She ingested the corrosive connection to the point to where she's digested concealed contamination. These are signs, very small signs, subtle signs that you're living in dysfunction. I'm out.